Jaden returned home from his trip, tired but happy to be back with his wife. Omolewa greeted him with a warm smile, her heart pounding as she led him to the dining room. She prepared his favorite meal, a delicious soup with a lot of assorted meats. The aroma filled the room and Jaden's eyes lit up as he sat down at the table. "This smells amazing, Omolewa," he said, taking a deep breath. "You've outdone yourself tonight." Omolewa forced a smile, her hands shaking as she served him the soup. "I wanted to make something special for you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jaden didn't notice the tremor in her voice or the way her hands shook as she placed the bowl in front of him. He was too focused on the delicious meal in front of him. He picked up his spoon and took a sip of the soup, closing his eyes as he savored the taste. Omolewa watched as he ate, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that the poison was working its way through his system, but she couldn't bring herself to stop him. She sat there, watching as the man she had once loved ate his final meal. As Jaden finished his soup, he suddenly clutched his chest, his face contorted in pain. Omolewa! He gasped, his voice filled with confusion and tears. What's happening? Omolewa stood up, her eyes wide with panic. "Jaden, I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Jaden fell to the floor, his body writhing in pain as the poison took hold. Omolewa watched in horror as he gasped for breath, his eyes pleading with her to help him, but there was nothing she could do. The poison had done its job, and within minutes, Jaden was dead. Omolewa stood there, her body shaking with sobs as she looked down at the lifeless body of her husband. She knew that she had made a terrible mistake, but it was too late to turn back now. She had chosen her path, and there was no going back. The news of Jaden's death spread quickly, and the Collins family was devastated. Chief and Mrs. Collins were inconsolable, their hearts broken by the loss of their eldest son. The burial was a somber affair, attended by families and friends who came to pay their respects. Junior played the part of a grieving brother, his face a mask of sorrow as he stood by Omolewa's side. But inside, he felt nothing but triumph. He had gotten what he wanted, and now he was free to be with Omolewa. After the funeral, Junior moved into Jaden's house, taking over his brother's life and his possessions. He drove Jaden's cars, wore his clothes, and spent his money as if it were his own. He threw lavish parties, inviting his friends and acquaintances to celebrate his newfound wealth. Omolewa watched in silence as Junior lived a life of excess and indulgence. She had hoped that they would start a new life together, but Junior seemed more interested in enjoying his brother's wealth than in building a future with her. He was constantly surrounded by women, his eyes roaming from one to the other, never satisfied with what he had. As the weeks turned into months, Omolewa grew increasingly frustrated with Junior's behavior. She confronted him one day, demanding to know when they were going to start their lives together. "Junior, we had a plan," she said, her voice filled with anger and frustration. "You promised me that we would be better together. When are we going to start our new life?" Junior shrugged his eyes, cold and indifferent. "I never promised you anything, Omolewa. You are just as guilty as I am in all of this. Don't think for a second that I owe you anything." Omolewa's heart sank as she listened to Junior's words. She realized that she had been a fool to trust him, and he had used her to get what he wanted. But it was too late to turn back now. She was trapped in a life she didn't want, with a man who didn't love her. As the months passed, Omolewa's frustration turned into anger. She watched as Junior continued to live a life of excess, his behavior becoming more reckless and dangerous. He spent Jaden's money freely, throwing parties and buying expensive gifts for his friends and acquaintances. Omolewa knew that their plan had failed, that they were no closer to starting a new life together than they had been before. As the weeks passed, Omolewa's anger turned into desperation. She knew that she had to do something to change her situation, but she didn't know what. She was trapped in a life she didn't want, with a man who didn't love her. She knew that she had to take matters into her own hands now, and she had to find a way out. One day, Omolewa called Junior and asked him to meet her at a hotel, the same one where they had first rekindled their affair. She knew that she had to confront him, that she had to make him understand that things couldn't continue the way they were. Junior arrived at the hotel, his face a mask of indifference as he walked into the room. Omolewa was waiting for him, her heart pounding in her chest as she watched him enter. Omolewa, was it? I'm busy, Junior said, his voice filled with annoyance. Omolewa took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she looked at him. She had put on a dress that she knew he liked, and makeup carefully applied to accentuate her features. She needed to remind him of the connections they once shared. Junior, I've missed you, she said softly, her voice a mix of vulnerability and seduction as she moved closer to him. But Junior's eyes were distant and cold, barely glancing at her. He brushed past her, his expression one of irritation. What do you want, Omolewa? I'm in the middle of something important, he said dismissively. Omolewa's heart sank. She tried to reach out, placing her hand on his arm, but he recoiled it as if her touch was repulsive. Junior, I thought we could talk. Remember what we had planned, our future together. I just want to know where we stand. Junior laughed, a harsh, mocking sound that filled the room. Where we stand? Omolewa, are you even serious? Look around you. You are just like the rest of them now. Another woman looking for a piece of the action. You think you are special? You are nothing but a materialistic whore, always scheming for more. The words cut through Omolewa like a knife. She felt her cheeks burning with humiliation and rage. Junior, how can you say that? We were in this together. You said you loved me. Junior's face twisted into a sneer. Loved you? Maybe for a moment, but now, look at yourself, clinging to me like a desperate fool. You betrayed Jaden, your own husband. What makes you think you won't do the same to me if a richer man comes along? I don't trust you, Omolewa. You are just like any other gold digger, and frankly, I'm done with you. Hearing this, Omolewa's vision blurred with tears. The man she had given up everything for was now turning his back on her. A surge of fury and betrayal coursed through her veins. She reached into her bag and pulled out a gun, pointing it directly at Junior. Junior's bravado vanished into an instant, his eyes widening in fear. Omolewa, what are you doing? Put that down. Let's talk about this, please. Omolewa's hand trembled, but her voice was steady. You made me destroy my life, Junior. I have nothing left because of you, and now you want to walk away? I won't let you. Junior raised his hands into a placating gesture, his voice filled with panic. Omolewa, please, I'm sorry. I was wrong. We can fix this. I promise. We can start over, just like we planned. I'll do everything you want. Just don't shoot, please. But Omolewa's mind was made up. She had been used and discarded. Her love turned into a weapon against her. The months of anguish and emptiness culminated in a single irreversible decision. She pulled the trigger. The gunshots echoed through the room and Junior fell to the floor, lifeless. Omolewa stood there, the gun still in her hand, her breath becoming a short gasp as the reality of what she had done sank in. She had lost everything: her husband, her lover, and now her freedom. The hotel management, alerted by the sound of the gunshot, quickly called the Nigerian police. As Omolewa tried to leave the hotel, she found the police waiting for her outside. They arrested her, placing her in handcuffs as they led her away. She didn't resist, her mind numb and empty. At the police station, Omolewa confessed everything. She told the police officers about the affair, the murder of her husband, and the subsequent killing of Junior. As she spoke, her voice was filled with a mixture of sorrow and relief. She was 6 months pregnant, and the law provided that pregnant women were allowed to give birth before being sentenced. The Collins family, devastated by the loss of their 2 sons, was informed of Omolewa's arrest and confession. Chief and Mrs. Collins were heartbroken, their grief compounded by the knowledge that their family had been torn apart by betrayal and murder. Omolewa was placed in a holding facility where she awaited the birth of her child. The months passed slowly, each day a reminder of choices she had made and the lives she had destroyed. She gave birth to a baby boy, naming him Jaden, after the husband she had once loved and betrayed. After the birth, Omolewa was sentenced to life in prison, her fate sealed by her own actions. The Collins family took the baby, determined to raise him as their own. They saw the child as a chance of redemption, a way to honor the memory of their beloved son. As the year passed, the Collins family poured their love and care into raising the child. Young Jaden grew up surrounded by the warmth and support of his grandparents, unaware of the tragic circumstances that had brought him into the world. He carried the name of his father, a reminder of the man who had loved and cherished his family above all else. In the end, the Collins family found solace in their grandson, a beacon of hope and joy in the midst of their sorrow, and Omolewa, alone in her prison cell, could only watch from afar as the family she had once been a part of found a way to heal and move forward.